It's Friday, June 14th, 2024. As we always do, let us start off with our promotional segment, which is very simple. If you'd like to support our show, go to supportourshow.com and you will see lots of options for you to give us some type of fiduciary remuneration. I think I used that correctly. The one thing missing from there, as far as I know, the code OZONE, Ozone, will still get you 2 months free on Libsyn. So if you would like to test out that service for your podcast needs, try out Ozone, see if it works. Nobody's told me it stopped working, so I'm assuming it is. Thus ends the promotional segment. Nice and tidy, less than a minute. That's all I have to start off with. Did you have an opener?
Oh, cool.
I should have asked you this before
I did.
Okay,
Why are they making another Alien movie?
What, Romulus?
Yeah.
Because
I read
it's
the
an IP that
idea.
people know? What do you mean why?
I read the idea behind the movie. I know what they're making. They're making it for money. But I'm saying,
yeah.
I've read the idea that it's supposed to take place between Alien and Aliens. Which
whatever.
Annoys
It's
me.
just Alien again.
It is. Well, I think that's what annoys me is that it's not. Alien was a great movie. Aliens was great because it broke from the first movie and did something different with the concept, right?
Yeah.
Alien 3, the version that we got in the movies, was mostly kind of trashed. I still like it, but the rough cut, which was the closest thing to Fincher, was amazing.
The assembly cut.
Because he tried to make his own thing. He tried to do exactly what Cameron did, right? And it is a very different movie. It's a really dark movie. It's a different kind of horror movie. But it's the assembly cut is much better. I love it. But then after that, we got a lot of, hey, it's a series. Let's make some more movies. And you got Aliens vs. Predator.
Well, wait. I mean, Resurrection was trying to do something different. It just...
Oh, no, yeah, but Resurrection was not a good movie.
No, but you can't say that it was just doing the
there.
same thing. So in fairness, they
tried.
tried.
There
they
are
just
things
swung
in there
wide.
that are cool. But overall, it's kind of a bad movie. Right?
Well, the interesting part about that is that one really expanded on the idea of the... Alien 3 introduced the concept that the alien took on the form of what it was, because we'd only seen human-looking aliens.
Yeah, but but Dark Horse Comics have been doing that for like a year.
Okay, but you can't.
Point.
Comics don't count to people watch movies if they don't know.
I know.
So in the movies, Resurrection really jumped off with, okay, we have swimming aliens and we have hybrid aliens and the human whatever, and the Ripley. And that was probably the only. Even though I don't like it.
And I do like the feral Ripley.
No, that's what I was going to say. Is that's the only acceptable way to bring the character back is as this warped version of herself. Otherwise, it's terrible. But that is interesting.
That Ripley is fantastic.
Yes.
And it's fantastic for that scene where she walks in the room and finds all the
versions of herself. Yeah.
And that's what I mean. I think what bugs me about Resurrection is the fact that it comes so close to being a really great movie, but there's so many things in there where I'm like, what? Like, conceptually. Like, the whole thing with the clones is fantastic. The idea that you have androids making other androids and that those androids are basically against violence because they've realized that it doesn't... Like, that's a great concept. It's the concepts are great. The execution is often ham-handed.
Yes.
You know? And I think that's my biggest irk with that movie. And then after that, you got Aliens vs. Predator, which has about 3 seconds of greatness. Otherwise, I just thought it was a trash movie. And then when they did Prometheus, I'm not a fan of Prometheus. It looks stunning. But I think that, maybe I just wasn't on board with Cameron, with Ridley Scott's idea, because I also wasn't. I loved David, the concept of the vengeful android, right? That's fantastic. But I guess I just wasn't impressed with where they went with it. I mean, they did their 3 movies. They did, what was the last one where he gets on the ship?
What, Covenant?
Covenant, right? That was the 3rd one, right? There's Prometheus. There's
yes.
And then is the ship from Covenant this ship? Is that the Romulus?
I don't think so.
I can't remember what the ship in Covenant was.
No, oh god, what was that ship called? No, I don't think Romulus is connected to any of that.
Okay, and I guess that's So
my understanding is Alien Romulus is its own completely separate thing. I don't think it has any ties to.
It's part of the Ridley Scott kind of trio.
Yeah, it's just redoing Alien. Yes, here it says unconnected. So
okay, yeah. So and then when I read about this, and they gave it to this new director, and I thought, oh, cool. And then basically, it sounds like the mandate was make something like Alien, but a little bit like Aliens. And he's been kind of shoehorned into this role, right? Whereas I would have loved it more if they were like, hey, make an Alien movie, just do it the way you want to do it. Try something different. And it's obnoxious because instead I've read it in a bunch of different places. The company line over and over again is, well, we wanted to do something that was kind of like Aliens, but kind of like Alien, And that's all they really wanted. They just wanted to make both those movies again and just shoehorn it between them. Where I'm sitting there going, I want something different, guys. I want something new. Like, what can make these movies really fascinating is when you let someone do something interesting and different with it. And so I saw the trailer for this, and I was like, you watch a trailer for a movie, and you go, I'm bored by this.
Uh-huh.
Like, I'm not even entertained. I'm just watching it, and I'm like, I've seen this movie. You know what? I can just go watch Aliens again. It's better.
Yeah, this is an interesting point of diversion for us, because I've had the opposite reaction so far. The first trailer did nothing for me. In fact, I was very annoyed by all the hopping face huggers.
Oh yeah,
that bothered me.
That doesn't bother me. I think that's probably their attempt to do something different to make them scarier. But I mean,
yeah, which I don't. I was about to say I don't think you need to do any of that. So that annoyed me. Then the second trailer came out.
Yeah.
And I liked it a lot better. And unlike you, I have no problem with them redoing Alien. I don't think the concept is, even saying we're just redoing the first movie with somebody else's idea for it, I don't mind that, because there's no way it's going to be Ridley Scott's Alien. There just isn't. It's either going to be its own thing with the same premise, which I'm fine with, or it's going to be an inferior copycat, in which case I'll forget all about it.
Yeah, and my problem is that it becomes Friday the 13th. The problem with the Friday the 13th movies is that the first one, you're like, the second one, you're like, okay. And then after that, you start to basically see a rehash of he shows up, he kills everybody, then someone gets the jump on him at the end or something, and and then we make like 10 of these.
It's an interesting comparison, because the Friday the 13th movies and Nightmare on Elm Street films are interesting movies to go through, because Friday the 13th Part 1 and 2 are really good, because the first one is a switcheroo, because you think it's Jason, it's not.
Yeah.
And the second one, it is, because now he's alive again. The third one is garbage. It's just because they focused on 3D, but he does get his mask in it, so it does have a notable place. The fourth one, if I remember, the fourth one is the one where he becomes a zombie superhuman, which is a great film. Or is it 6? No, I'm sorry. Wait, I think that's 6. Hold on.
That's what I mean. Like, you start to just lose him in the middle.
No, but the thing is that's when it gets really good again, because 6 is really good. If that's the one, hold on. I'm sorry, I have to look. 6, Jason Lives. Yes, 6 is the one where he gets struck by lightning, and now he is purely just a monster, and it revitalized the whole thing. Now, of course, it went downhill again, but you could argue that that's kind of where Aliens got.
And then you eventually end up with something like Jason X, which is
great.
And hold on. Friday the 13th is similar in this respect because Friday the 13th eventually ended up as with Freddy's Dead.
Yes.
Which is like
you're talking about Nightmare on Elm Street.
Nightmare on Elm Street. Yeah, Freddy's Dead, which is practically a comedy horror movie.
Boy, is it.
Same as Jason X, Jason X, there are moments in Jason X, if you've got a dark sense of humor, there are moments in Jason X that you will spit laugh. Because it's like when he kills the women. Is it the women in the sleeping bags?
Yeah, where they've got the hologram of Crystal Lake where they're like, hey, we're going to have sex now. And he's like, he just murders them because they're distracting him.
Well, no, he grabs the sleeping bag and he bashes them to death in the sleeping bag.
Well, yeah, but the sleeping bag trick happens a couple times. But what they're doing is they create a hologram on the spaceship of Camp Crystal Lake with these two very, very, young, hot women that are talking about sex. And then that's the key because the joke is he can't resist going after sexually active young women. So he has to, even though he's trying to murder them, they stops it. It stops it. So it's great. It's a very meta
but
joke,
that's what I mean.
And it works very well.
It gets monotonous, and then it got absurd, and then it becomes a comedy of itself.
Well, and couldn't you argue that's kind of where Alien has ended up?
Well, Alien hasn't gotten funny yet.
Well, okay, I don't think Alien's going to get funny, although 4 played with some humor. Resurrection had moments.
No, you're right. There are
the basketball like thing and stuff.
Yeah, and when the one guy was it? As when God, I can't remember his name. Dorf.
Johns?
When Dorf is torturing them with the salt water thing in the beginning. Yeah, but like but it's still not like it is not a warped like horror comedy of itself.
Yes. No.
But I think that's because the Alien franchise to me is not a horror franchise. I think the Alien franchise for me has always had this undercurrent of there's an undercurrent of cyberpunk, and I only say that in the idea that there is a fear of the corporation and what the corporation will do to you for what they want. The alien is a commodity, a destructive commodity. And in Aliens and Alien, the big message was, hey, the corporation wants this, and they want it more than your life. And then Alien 3 is the same thing. Ripley gets to a point where she realizes the corporation's coming, and they want it. And now they've got it trapped here.
Yeah.
And either it's the ultimate position of rebellion to say, no, I will end my life and I will kill this thing because I do not want you people to have this, right? And I think that is where it kind of ends, because with Resurrection, the corporation has now tried everything to rebuild this thing, and for me, the franchise does end with Resurrection, right? Because after that, the corporate undertone is gone, right? But that for me is one of the big, is the big idea. Is that for the corporation, it's always, and I think for Ridley Scott, probably the reason that he made Prometheus and why Prometheus was important to him was his idea is that the corporation goes looking for life. The person who runs the corporation himself shows up trying to demand that that the engineers give him what he wants, and they crush him for it, which is probably it's kind of the dark humor of it, which is like, yeah, you thought you could tell these people what to do. But I think that is why the Aliens franchise is different to me from other horror movie franchises. Like Predator. Predator, I feel like, has more in common with Friday the 13th than Alien does.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it does. But I guess my larger point is this doesn't bother me because I don't mind it in a way that other movies, when they redo, or from what we can tell, we don't really know, but from what we can tell from the trailer and what we're basically seeing, appears to be a rehash of the first movie. Is a lot of other movies, when they try to redo or reboot or whatever, the first one, they just copy it and don't really do anything new. Now, from what we've seen, while the basic setup is similar, Ridley Scott is such a, at least at that point in his career, was such a distinctive kind of director in the way he did things that even trying to do a shot-for-shot remake of it will not happen. So I'm interested. I'm not saying it's going to be good. You know, this thing could come out and it could be every bit as awful as we think.
What's interesting is this is the guy that did the remake of Evil Dead. I didn't see the remake.
And see,
Evil Dead.
that's yes, I saw the remake. I liked it. It's and that's, by the way, a really interesting example of it's essentially the same story we've seen a bunch of times, but it's such a different version of it that what I wonder is this another fake out? Is it appearing to just be Alien again, and then halfway through something wildly different is going to happen, or some different aspect? Because there's one fascinating thing. I don't know if you noticed this in the trailer, but there's a shot where they essentially repeat the Alien 3 shot where the alien comes up to the main character who's against the wall.
Oh, yeah, they recreated that scene, yes.
And I'm sitting here going, well, wait a minute. The reason that worked in Alien 3 is because she was implanted. Yeah. Why is this happening in this movie?
Yeah.
I don't know. So are we going to find out that the woman is a bioengineered being of some kind?
And there's a fuck ton of eggs on that ship as well.
That's what I'm saying is I don't know that it really is as much an Alien redo as we think it is. It's definitely borrowing stylistic and things.
It's not, because they want it to be Alien and Aliens, which is what every interview I read says, that they were basically, the mandate is they want it to be Alien and Aliens put together.
But we really don't know what that means. Because
No, I don't. I just wish they'd do something. I just wish they'd do something different.
Well, this.
You know, and
the interesting thing is, again, based on the trailer.
Yeah.
Because I've read the same things where they're like, well, we want to do the two movies blended, which is, I guess, what Aliens did, right? So she said, you say you want to do Aliens, but whatever. What I wonder, because the hopping face huggers, is the action part going to be all on the alien side, and the humans are just going to be I don't know. There's ways to do it that, when I think about how you mix those together, could be refreshing and interesting.
But I think what bugs me is the fact that because of Dark Horse Comics, I have seen so many other versions of the Alien story.
Okay.
That are horrible, not horrible. They're not horrible bad, but they're such intense horror, or they're kind of funny, or they're action. I've seen so many other versions of this story. So when you come to me and you say, well, we want to make Alien again, but make it more Alien-y, and I'm sitting there going, yeah, but there's all these other, even if you just want to take a material that's already out there, there's so many other stories that you could take.
I don't disagree, but that's us. So you have to be able to detach from that.
Oh, okay, hold on. Are you telling me that they're making this for the crowd that say Alien is too old a movie to watch?
No. Well,
is this for that crowd?
I'm not saying it isn't, but what I am saying is my mother has never read a single comic book in her life that I'm aware of. Right? You and I know 80 different versions of Alien and Predator that are far superior to anything they will ever do in a movie. Ever.
Yeah, so far. Yeah.
Right? No, they will never do the most interesting things because they're not looking to appeal to comic book readers. Yeah. Right? They're looking to appeal to, in theory, for a movie like this, if it was a small independent film for $5 million, then I might say, okay, they're doing an A24 thing. They're not. They're going for wideband.
Yeah, that's the problem. They're going for wideband, but that wide band is almost getting a little more narrow because, you know what? Was it Furiosa? Furiosa is financially it's a box office flop, even though all of its
okay, you know
film
what?
critics.
All right, let's stop this. This is nonsense. So was Fury Road. People have forgotten that. That movie did not do well either. So it doesn't matter.
But they're incredible movies.
Yeah, I know, and that's what I'm saying is that shit has not meant anything for a while. I keep seeing this as if box office bomb means the industry has a problem, not the movie.
What I mean is that the industry they're trying to find that sweet spot of how widespread generic can we make this to get the widest to catch the most fish. How wide can the net go? You know what I mean? And that's every movie, unless the movie is very specifically made. Right, usually for a low budget or by a what's that studio? Is it A24?
A24, yeah, sure, A24.
Yeah. Or Sony Classics, they do fucked up shit too. They always seem to be trying to cast the widest net. Right now, Aliens has a little more niche because it's R-rated, so that's a different net altogether there, right? But they're still trying to reach that wide margin of people, and I feel like in doing so, yeah, they lose a lot of good story because they're just trying to meet this generic.
Well,
yeah,
okay. So
maybe you're right. I don't know.
Well, I am not necessarily put off by anything I've seen yet because this is the guy who did Evil Dead, which is not a mainstream film. I mean, it's about a possessed mother and buckets of gore. So
he also did The Girl in the Spider's Web, which was a very interesting take on the character from The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo.
Yeah, and so what I'm saying is they could keep saying it's aliens all day long. Number one, I don't care what they say in interviews because that's all marketing and who cares? That, if anything, could just be a smokescreen.
Oh, I know. The worry is that it's not. The hope is that it's marketing. The worry is that that's the mission that he was given, that he had to live under.
But
because that's what they did to Fincher. Remember, that's the thing. Fincher was a really great director, but because he had only had a few movies under his belt and he hadn't become who he was at that point.
Okay.
The studio rolled him.
I don't disagree, and that's always a possibility. However, I think that if that happens, we're going to know right away. I do not believe that at this point, a director is not going to keep quiet about it. Fincher, that was just a bad situation.
Oh, I think directors will still keep quiet because to a certain degree they want to get work.
So. No, I don't think so. I think, listen, those days are slowly winding down as far as how much work there's going to be anyway. I mean, the movie industry is changing. It's not dying as everybody's just dying. It's dying. It's evolving into something different.
Studios don't want actors. They don't want directors. Really, they just want a machine to make the movie for them so they can pump one out every day.
Yeah. Well, of course.
I mean, that's what they want, right? They want to get rid of all the people, have the whole thing digitally rendered, and then just take all the money.
At the end of the day, I don't know whether the movie's going to be any good or not. It may, in fact, be a very weak imitation of both those movies. Maybe it will.
So far, I am bored with it. Hopefully, I will be disproven.
Well,
I hope. Hey, listen, I'll leave the door open for the hope that it'll be. Listen. You know me. I want to be entertained, right? So if I'm wrong, good. But so far, I'm bored.
I don't mind necessarily doing Alien again if they can add something to it, if there's an interesting angle to it. I don't know whether that'll be there. It may end up, although, if you look at, like we just talked about, look at the Alien sequels we had, and then, the Predator crap too. So it may just be that it will be a familiar and dialed back version of this.
Predators had a really hard time of it too, because the first Predator
until
is
Prey.
Prey
showed.
Well, I know, but I'm saying the first Predator is epic. The second Predator is at once a genius. Yeah, it's at once a genius trash movie that you have to put yourself in a position to enjoy, but it is not necessarily like a great sequel, right? And then what comes after that? Predators, where everyone gets teleported to the alien planet. It's kind of hit or miss. The one where it comes to the town, the one that's written by something Black. What's his name?
Oh God, Shane Black. That movie.
Shane
so
Black.
Bad.
Yeah, I never even watched it because the reviews were so mixed on that.
I've watched clips of it, and it's. I mean, I know clips are out of context, but they're so bad.
Yeah, and then they come up with
Shane
the Super
Black
Predator.
Is so overrated to me. So. Whatever. Yeah,
and then so Predators had kind of a hard run, and we've already said Aliens vs Predator was like a trash movie. So like Predators had even a hard run, and so then you get this small, low. I mean, Prey was by comparison to others pretty low budget, right? And
it was a Hulu original, so it was not.
Yeah, holy
stuff.
shit, right? And that was a great movie. So it's like it's kind of this weird thing where it's like and to some degree. What the part that is bothersome is this idea that Prey is on some level. It's like Predator. It's like the first Predator again. It's the idea of we don't know we don't know what this is. It's a new group of people, and she fights it. Right now, in her respect, she fucking fights it. Right, she's not a military group full of of big muscly guys. And that's when you said you add a new thing. That's the new thing, right? But the question is, now can you go someplace else from that? Are they just gonna try to make Prey over and over again? This time we're in 18th century Scotland. You know what I mean? Like, did I lose you? You still there?
No, you just stopped. You said put him in.
Oh yeah.
Okay, I thought you were going to finish a point.
Oh, did you not hear what I said? I said put them in 18th century Scotland.
Oh yeah, and I thought you were going to finish that. So
no,
that's
it. That's all I had. Yeah.
Oh, okay, got it. Sorry.
No. No, there's no punchline.
But
that's just what I'm worried about.
But Prey is kind of it might work because it is mostly a reboot of the first one. It's person fighting a predator in the woods. The only difference is there's not a team with her. There sort of is at first, but then it's just her.
She outsmarts it.
Yeah, so you can do it. So I don't know. It's.
Hey, listen. Prey was entertaining. That meets the mark.
Yeah,
and that's the thing is, at the end of the day, it just really needs to be entertaining at the end of the day.
But the other, that number one, you're right there. But the other thing is too, and this may be a statement that people disagree with, but fundamentally, I don't know. Again, let's leave the comics out because comics have unlimited budget and imagination and audience potential. They do. I mean, that's why the Predator fought Batman. It's a great comic. Do I think we're ever going to see that? Can't imagine.
Didn't the Predator fuck Batman up though?
Yeah, he did. That's why he had to build a super suit.
Okay.
Yeah, he
basically
you're put him into life support. So, yeah. And then he beat him with a baseball bat. Anyway, but do I think we're ever going to see Batman fighting Predator with a baseball bat? I doubt it. I'd love to. It was a great comic. Would most normal people think that's a ridiculous concept? Would they show up for it? Probably not. That's the other end is we would show up for that. Would a normal audience that doesn't read comics see Batman versus Predator and think it was worth anything?
I think people would show up for that.
Hold
on. Only reason, right? Only reason.
Yeah.
It's because Batman is already a known commodity in movies, and Predator is already a known commodity in movies.
Doesn't matter. No.
I think people.
I do not think that a standard audience shows up for Batman versus Predator unless it is okay. You got Christian Bale to come back, maybe. So it's like star power.
If it was rated R. If it was rated R, I think that dudes would show up to see that.
Yeah, but it wouldn't be enough. It would be a flop. It wouldn't be enough money to call it a success.
Yeah, unless you could somehow make it for very little money.
Which you could, but do I think a studio would have? Well, here's the other thing: you have to license Batman and Predator. Can you do that for a small amount of money? I don't think so, because those studios are going to say we're going to have to pay us X billion dollars to have those two characters in the movie. That's why Pinhead didn't show up in friggin' Freddy vs. Jason. Because, New Line or whoever owned it said, no, you got to give us this many million. They're like, no, we're not giving you that. That's ridiculous. We just need him in a cameo at the end. What are you kidding? And they didn't do it. So, But all this being a very, very long way of saying that I'm neutral on it. The alien concept, the problem with it is that the marketable way to make it is what they've been constantly doing. Just keep throwing the alien against different people in different ways. Right? That's all you can really do because general audiences want to see the alien fighting or terrifying people. Well, guess what? There's only so many variations on that you can do unless you're willing to go way off the path. And if you go way off the path, then you might end up with Alien Covenant where David is basically showing himself how to fillet himself on a flute. And people are like, what? And, aren't into it. I mean, I would have loved to see just the David stuff. You could have dumped the alien shit. I didn't need any of it. But it was like a homoerotic android love story of himself. And that's difficult for a general audience to walk into. So I can understand why they didn't just go all out on that. So I don't know how you do Alien without keeping it somewhat the same all the time. You could change the genre, sure. You could do action, and then you could do a depressing, nihilistic, there's no point to anything, Alien 3, which, gee whiz, was that a box office success? No. Even the Fincher version would not have been successful because people, I remember people saying, what, Ripley kills herself? Oh, I don't want that. But, I think at this point, we've probably said everything. I'll just say I'm neutral on it. I think that's the thing, I'm not as resistant to it as you would think that I would be. I don't necessarily expect it to be... I hope it's surprisingly good. If it's not, then guess what? It goes on the pile of many other Alien films and, frankly, Predator films. So that's fine. So we'll see. But, yeah, I don't know. It's tough to say. At least although I guess you could say this about Prometheus, at least it doesn't look like shit. So I'll give it that.
No, I'm sure it's going to look great.
Yeah, so it'll be pretty. I'm not going to go to a theater and see it. I'll see it when it's a streaming thing. I'll wait. That's fine.
Well, I actually have a movie review. I'm going to do a light review because I don't do reviews like you.
Yeah.
Which is not a bad thing. I like your reviews, but I just don't. My brain doesn't function that way.
Sure.
And I don't think it warrants a full review. But it might get us into something else interesting. So, I already knew a bit. This is a World War II movie, so it's an area that I like. I already knew a bit about Churchill's kind of mischief squad. I'd read a few books about his, and you know about this, right? That Churchill basically
we
had.
talked about this, I'm pretty sure, at length at one show.
Yeah. Churchill had operatives that were basically like they were taught martial arts. They were like spies, but they were there to basically, they were there to fuck with the Nazis, right? And to pull off impossible operations. One of their more notable ones is they had a guy who worked for them that was a magician, and they knew a bombing was coming in, and at night, and they basically had him show them how to make it so it looked like the town was not where it was and it was someplace else. And they rigged all these lights, and they simulated a whole other thing that when seen from above at night looked like the town was there. And then the Nazis bombed that instead of the actual town. Right, and that was the kind of shit the Mischief Squad got up to. The Mischief Squad also kidnapped a Nazi general alive and got him back to the authorities, which is, I think, one of the only times a general has been kidnapped during a war. Right. So this movie, yeah, there you go. So I watched
a very long title. There it is. The
Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare.
Oh, Guy Ritchie.
Okay. Now here's the thing: there is a book. This is based on a book. And it is based on a true story.
Sure.
The book is very good. And the true story is fucking hilarious. Because the idea that some of these people really did exist and did do the shit that they talk about is amazing. It's amazing that any of them lived.
Yeah, except the actual guy died something like a year after what happens in this movie.
Oh, he died.
Yeah, because Cavill. I saw Cavill talking about this because
I think he died a year before the war ended. I think it was something like that.
Well, I remember I saw a thing with Cavill, and he was talking about the fact that a lot of these characters are what started what Ian Fleming based James Bond.
Oh yeah, Ian Fleming is in this.
Oh, is he? Okay, because Cavill said that he's always wanted to play James Bond. This was as close as he could get so far, probably ever.
Yeah,
and he also said that the guy that the Gus guy died something like a year after what they're portraying in this.
Yeah. So Ian Fleming is in this, and he's basically Ian Fleming was an ideas guy for the British government. He came up with these operations. Honestly, he was kind of like M to a certain degree, but he came up with operations. He developed ideas. He was an idea guy, and he came up with these operations that then the government tried to pull off. So. The idea of this movie is this is before the Americans, I think, are involved, but they can't get their troops across the sea because the U-boats are basically running the ocean, right? And they had to figure out how to basically stop the U-boats somehow so that food, resources, and American troops could get across, right? Because you can't fly those kinds of numbers of people over. There's no fucking airliners big enough to do that. I mean, this is hundreds of thousands of men. So Ian Fleming and another guy, and this is true because remember, this is based off a true story. So they just inject Ian Fleming in there for shits and giggles. Ian Fleming is the guy that did this. Him and I think it's another admiral or a general. Basically, it's played by Cary Elwes. I can't remember if it was an admiral or general. Basically came with this idea that said, hey, we can't stop the U-boats, but why don't we find out where the U-boats are being basically refueled, rearmed, and shipped out, cut them there so that the submarines have no support, right? And so they figured out where it was, and the problem was that the base was in an international zone, right? So was it Algeria? That wasn't Algeria. Algeria was in the north. It was basically in an area that was considered to be a neutral zone, right? So the submarines could roll out of there and come back, but they didn't actually do anything bad there. And to attack them there was basically kind of an international crime. Like, you were breaking the neutrality of the area, right? Because it's the whole, if an area is neutral, you can fight around it, but the second you cross into their territory, you're done. So Ian Fleming said, essentially, why don't we just go in there and destroy their ability to keep those submarines going? Problem is, nobody can know about it. Because if we're found out, if it becomes public, right, then we've broken international neutrality, which is a bad thing. So the problem was the British military didn't have anybody who was really equipped for this kind of operation. This kind of, hey, if you get caught by them, they'll kill you. If you get caught by our people, you'll get arrested. Because you're not supposed to be there. You're not supposed to be there doing this. We need you to commit a crime for Her Majesty's, government, right? I wasn't Her Majesty at that point. It was still the king. So, yeah, so it's this interesting setup, right? The book, by the way, is a lot of fun to read. But you're in this situation where, yeah, they need to find someone to do it. And the person they had for this is this individual with the name of Gus March Phillips, who is a military guy who is, I think he was in prison at this point. And he, when they say that Ian Fleming based Bond off him, there's also a rumor that Ian Fleming based Bond off of Christopher Lee. Christopher Lee? Yeah, because Christopher Lee was also in the SAS, right? And he is a cousin of Ian Fleming. And Ian Fleming knew that he was basically, at that point, he was a special operations guy. So it's very possible that Ian Fleming based James Bond off a couple of guys. But Gus March Phillips is one of the guys that they pulled him off, that he pulled the idea off of. So they bring this guy in, and they basically say, hey, listen, we have this job. It's fucking impossible. If you get caught, they'll kill you, or our people will arrest you. But we really need it done. And he accepts the mission. Gus March Phillips is a... man, how to describe him? Because he's not like Bond. I think that's the thing about he's very smooth and he's very cool and he's confident, but beyond that, he has too much fun to be Bond. Like, Gus March Phillips liked being who he was, and he liked fighting the Nazis. He liked pulling shit off. Like this didn't strike me as the type of guy who had trouble sleeping at night. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I got you. Yep.
Yeah, so he takes and Cavill is great. Cavill is having a great time as this character. He's got this great beard with this like funky mustache. See the trailer, right, to see the look, and he's great. And he basically says to them, "Okay, I'll do it, but I want my own people. I have people that I've worked with before, and I'd rather have them." And of course, it's an Ocean's 11 ragtag bunch of guys, except it's based on a reality. So though they may not have looked like these people, the reality is there were people with these names who did do these things. Now, this is where Guy Ritchie's stylism enters the picture. And the movie is continuously at odds, I think, with the fact that it's a true story, but the fact that Guy Ritchie wants to do more with it, right? And honestly, what's interesting in that is that there are times where I wish Guy Ritchie did something different with it, because what actually happened is not as exciting for a movie as what could have happened, right? But that's the story, and they kind of stick with it. So Cavill basically goes and he gets his team, and he's got an explosives expert, and he's got a guy who is excellent with a bow and arrow. Actually, my wife and I were watching this, and my wife said, "Why does this remind me of Sniper Elite 5?" It gets like, yeah, you've got a bow and arrow expert, and you've got it's Far Cry. That's what she said. There's very Far Cry World War II at times, and he's like a good hand-to-hand combat guy. You have another guy who can basically drive any boat, and you get this crew together, and they find out they've got one other member they got to pick up on the way to this base, which is in Africa, and it's and he's in a Nazi camp essentially, and he's like a chess player, but he's ruthless and brilliant. and he's friends with Gus March Phillips. So he's like, no, I want to get him. So the first time you see these guys in operation is them basically walking into a Nazi prison camp during the day and just killing everybody. And it's the first example of like a kind of like a special forces unit. No one expects someone in those small numbers to go in and just start hacking their way through the camp. And they do. They use the Nazis' own guns against them. And, after, how I stand on the whole, after playing Sniper Elite 5, I have no problem watching Nazis get killed. And in that respect, it is a very fun movie. Because everyone looks like they're having... All the actors look like they're having a great time. Now, there's a secondary plot, which is essentially... There is, in the actual town in Africa... I really wish I could remember what the country was. The guy who's their man there runs a hotel and casino, and he's the one who basically brought it to the British that the Nazis were there, and this is what they were refueling. And that actor is played by, I don't want to get his name wrong, Babs Ulasan Mokun. It's the doctor from Strange New Worlds. Isn't Strange New Worlds? Yeah.
Oh, I like that guy. That guy's great.
Yeah. Oh, he's great. And so, and this is a very ensemble movie. So if you go to this, I think there's people who came to this movie thinking it was going to be like the Cavill show. It is not the Cavill show. Cavill is there and he is great, but he is one part of a very ensemble cast. So the Doctor from Star Trek, he actually gets a tremendous amount of the movie because he brings a British agent back with him who is supposed to assess what's going on, and then she needs to essentially seduce the Nazi general who's running things so they can distract him long enough for their operation. So he brings her in, and he gives her the lay of the land. And honestly, the character and the way he's written and the way that the Doctor, his name is, we're going to call him Babs because like I don't want to call him the Star Trek Doctor constantly. The way that Babs portray him is so cool that, I mean, he kind of upstages Henry Cavill because he is so cool. In fact, he's kind of more James Bond than Cavill is through this movie. he's the one who's like, he's dapperly dressed, he's playing people both ways. He's the one that essentially sets up the operation on the ground for them, which is that he has a gun that slides out his sleeve. He's the one that blows up the power station to put everyone in the dark. Like, there's a whole other side story with Babs and then this British operative who's trying to play the Nazi general. And the Nazi general is very good. He's played by Til Schweiger. Til Schweiger has been in fucking everything. He was in the Inglourious Bastards. He was one of the Inglourious Bastards. Was a Nazi that switched sides, I think, in that movie. And it's funny to see him as a bad guy. He plays it really well. He kind of gets this sense he's being played by the British operative. He doesn't know. He thinks that she's like a gold merchant. He thinks he's being played, but then he's not sure. And then he kind of likes her, and then he kind of relaxes, and then he realizes he's being played. So there's a whole side story with them. It's very interesting. They realize there's more Nazis there than they can handle, at which point Babs has to find local muscle to help them. And then, meanwhile, Cavill's people are on a boat trying to get there. Other admirals in the British government find out what's going on. Because this is brought to Churchill, and Churchill is the one that greenlights it. But Churchill greenlights it without talking to any of the other people. Like all the admirals and everything, the Navy and the Army, like, he doesn't talk to them about this. This is his own operation. So if it becomes public, he could conceivably be deposed from his position, right? So there's a whole thing there where the naval admiral finds out about it, and essentially tries to shut the operation down. And Cavill's ship very nearly gets stopped by a British ship on the way, and the only thing that saves them is that the British get attacked by German U-boats, which is ironic. And so when Cavill's people finally get to this town, they go in at night. Babs stages a massive party because he's got a casino, so he's got all the upper officers at his casino and his hotel, drinking like crazy. And then he basically hires hookers and booze for all the soldiers. So he gets almost everybody into a warehouse, at which point he locks the door. So there's no troops. There's like a skeleton crew of people left behind. And as they're and they find out, like, literally the last moment, like they're there, they find out that the ship that they need to sink has armor plating. So Cavill and the chess expert basically say, you know what? We can't sink her. Let's just steal her. She has all the resources that the Nazis need to keep the U-boats going in the area. So all they need to do is steal her. But they can't actually drive her. So there's a whole thing in there where they're stealing tugboats and they're trying to get this thing out of the bay. And of course, at that point, the Nazis finally get wind of what's going on, and there's a huge shootout. And at this point in the movie, any other director would have like done something more, right? Like there would have been something stupid. You know what I mean? But because it's based on a true story, they just got away. They managed to steal the tugboat and all this shit. Rather than sinking it, they stole it and they handed it over to the British. And Babs managed to get the British operative, get her out, and connected up with them. And so they all get away. It's amazing that they pulled it off. And that's kind of what makes it such, like, it's so weird, because, like, none of them got killed. They all survived. They beat the Nazis, and then they all go straight to prison because they've committed a crime. But the admirals won't go after Churchill because Churchill pulled it off. And because of this operation, the American soldiers and resources were allowed to get across the ocean to the U.S. I mean, to the U.K. And essentially, after this, Churchill takes the whole lot out of prison and hires them as his mischief squad. They are now the Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare, which is why a couple years, I don't know if it was a year after this, but I know it was a couple years after this, Gus March Phillips did die because he was off pulling crazy shit. But at the end of the movie, they kind of give you a list of like what some of these soldiers went on to do. And like one of these guys got the Victoria Cross. And this is the guy who was like shooting people with a bow and arrow, stabbing people to death left and right. And like, so it's a very entertaining movie based on a very entertaining true story. The weakness for me is that Guy Ritchie wants to make it stylish the way he does, and it's almost at odds with what the movie wants to be. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I see what you mean. Yeah, it's conflicting. His style conflicts with the story.
Yeah, my wife actually said it felt like a Quentin Tarantino movie.
Oh yeah, I can see that.
No feet, but I told her there's no feet. Because it's got it's very stylish, right? And it's very cool, and everybody is very suave, and there's a lot of really good one-liners, right? And you like everybody. Like that's the thing, you like. I mean, I would almost compare this to an Ocean's 11 type thing. Do you know what I mean? Because it's a big ensemble cast. Everyone's going in different directions. They've got this big. In this case, well, it is a heist because they steal the fucking boat. There's a big heist they're trying to play. So, Guy Ritchie doesn't direct it like a World War II movie. He directs it like a heist movie. And that is the only part that feels slightly off. Beyond that, it's a very fun movie that I'm sure they took some liberties with, but has an incredible ensemble cast. Everybody's having fun. Everybody looks good with what they're doing. And when you watch this, if you enjoy it, then you should go read the book and find out more of the actual true story, which is even more unbelievable. Because some of the shit that these guys and this woman did and got away with is astounding. And it's because nobody had done this before. You know, like remember World War I was kind of the end of old war, right? Where people used to line up and shoot each other across a field, right? That was the beginning of industrial war. It was the beginning of the machine gun and the tanks and everything like that. Whereas World War II was total war. Everything was a target. Everything was a battlefield. Everyone could be shot. Everyone could be bombed. And so it needed something new, and that was the entrance of, you know, spies and mischief and mayhem and assassinations and all that stuff. which to some degree had existed before, but not, I guess, not at this industrialized level, right? Where you actually had a whole department just dedicated to it. So I enjoyed it massively. Like I said, there is that weakness in there. The fact that the Guy Ritchie-ness doesn't always feel like it's in sync with what the story wants to do, right? Because like they start the movie with what's his name? Cavill is already on the boat headed south with his crew, right? And then they basically blow up a Nazi ship. And you're kind of like, what are we doing here? And then they rewind back to Cavill talking to the general and Churchill and getting the mission and stuff like that. And I'm kind of like, but they never do it again in the whole movie. There's never a rewind like that, right? So it feels unnecessary. I feel like the movie should have started with them giving him the job and then just cut forward. That would have felt more thematically consistent with the flow of the movie. But otherwise, yeah, it was a lot of fun. It was like a modern day Guns of the Navarone.
Well, it sounds interesting. I mean, the fact that it was based on real people who were doing this stuff, it's an intriguing setup.
The real story is more interesting. I'm going to say that.
I mean, isn't it always?
Well, it isn't always. Sometimes they dress this stuff up to make it more dramatic. But in this case, some of the shit these guys did, they dressed it down because it's so absurd, some of it. You know, and we're kind of used to these. The other thing is we're used to these spy movie tropes now. But when these people started doing this shit then, it's like this was novel. I mean, you know, the British government wasn't fond of having they didn't like the SAS in the beginning. They didn't like the fact that they were soldiers, but they were different kinds of soldiers. They were more lateral, independent thinkers, which the military was like, yeah, but the military is all about everybody falling in line and following orders. So this idea that you had a whole department that was dedicated to people who were more independent thinkers working on their own to get a mission completed, it didn't sit well with them. It's, it's ungentlemanly.
Apparently.
So yeah, I had a great time. I think it works as a heist movie as well as a World War II movie. It's not the best movie I've ever seen, but I thought it was quite good. If I was going to give it a grade, because I do like to do that sometimes, just give it a grade. In my world, it was kind of a B+, A- movie.
Okay.
Enjoyable, entertaining. But there was the only thing that kind of keeps it from being like an A movie for me is that just there's that disconnect between Guy Ritchie's style and the movie itself.
Yeah, I could see that being a problem.
But all the stuff with what is his name? Babs, yeah. Everything with the actor Babs, the Star Trek doctor. Everything with him is fantastic. Like he is so it's interesting to see him in this role because when I saw that actor on Star Trek Strange New Worlds, I never thought of the Doctor. The Doctor is never a combat character in Star Trek. You know what I mean?
Right.
And he has made that character very interesting because he has this special forces past. You know what I mean? So seeing him in this movie where he's not playing the quiet doctor, he's playing the suave guy. You know what I mean? Like he's very suave and he's talking to everybody and he's very cool and he's scheming and he's not a military guy, but he is that kind of smooth double agent kind of guy, you know? I did not think he was going to make it. I mean, I knew some of the story, but I didn't know kind of the loose ends of it. So I didn't know if this guy actually made it out. I worry that, when I go back and look, maybe he didn't. Like that's one of those things that they would have changed. But yeah, it was good. It was fun. I was entertained.
See, sometimes that's all you need. Just a little bit of entertainment.
Yeah. I mean, and there was something interesting where the casting, they cast a lot of, like, One of the guys is Irish. Oh no, there's another guy there who's I think is he Scottish? I can't remember. But basically, he's Asian in the movie. And so when they were showing the photo,
okay. Oh wait.
Yeah,
so
the
actor is Asian.
The actor
but
is
the actual
Asian, right.
person was Scottish.
So,
okay, got it.
so when they show I think he was Scottish. So when they show the pictures
For a minute,
of the
I
real,
thought you meant that a Scottish guy was playing an Asian character. Which
No.
Let's.
no, well, I mean you could be Scottish Asian. So either way, they had.
Well,
this,
you
this
can,
Asian,
but I don't know how you do that gracefully in the modern age. You know, you'd have to play that very carefully.
So they had this Asian actor playing this character, and when they showed the pictures, it was very much not an Asian guy, right? And my wife was confused because she was like, "Wait a minute, who is that?" And I'm like, "That's that guy." And she goes, "But that guy was Asian." I'm like, "No, honey, they cast an Asian actor." It's like, but that guy was British. I was like, you know, he was just a generic-looking white guy. Yeah.
Oh, here it is. Scottish Asians has its own Wikipedia thing. You are correct. Dual Scottish and Asian ancestry. Yeah.
I don't see why that. As long all you need is a Scottish
Well,
person and any Asian nationality
I knew
to
that
fall
such
in love.
a person, any mix can exist. Well,
Yeah.
some mixes can exist, I guess. But you can't have a. I guess you can't have a. Oh no, you could if you had. Okay, wait a minute. This is almost a math problem. How many combinations, if each side had dual background all the way back through grandparents and all the rest of it, how many could you... Somebody must have done this. Is how much can you actually be mixed together in total? Because there's only a finite number. So if each side, if you are a child, each parent is of multiple ancestry and is the child of multiple ancestry, which is the child of multiple ancestry. There is a finite limit, though. I mean, there's only so many. So there's got to be an upper limit. There has to be a percentage.
Well,
that
before
you can't go
before
below.
you're not considered Asian anymore.
No. But no. The other way around. You're stacking them. So you're Scottish, Asian, English. Blah, blah. You could put them all together as long as people were born. You know what I mean?
I know, but at some point, I think it becomes so slight that.
Well, that's what I mean. There has to be a limit. But
like
I'm curious.
My kids are 50-50 British and Cuban.
Okay, right. But what I'm saying is, so let's say it would be 1%. If it's under 1%, it might as well not exist as far as in terms of this.
But you know
so
what?
how many
So
1% can a person be?
Yeah. Well, I wonder at what point, because you have people who say they're Native American, and you find out they're like 2% Native American.
That's what I'm saying. So if we cut it off at 1%, what is the maximum number that you could have where it doesn't fall below 1%? That has to be a definable number.
I don't think either of us have math.
No, I'm asking if anyone knows, anyone who's listening, this is an interesting thing to research. We have smart people who listen. I don't know why they listen, but they're smart. And so they can probably figure this out. What is the maximum 1% number or whatever you would call that? So of maximum 1% ancestry number. How many things can you be stacked up to where it does not fall below 1%? There has to be a number, because you're right. At some point, you dilute it so much you fall under the 1 percentile. Because you're right, there are people who are like 1/32nd whatever. Okay, so what is that upper number? I'm curious. I don't know, but it's an interesting question. So, what is the maximum 1% ancestry stack? There you go. That's the question. That's the homework for somebody.
Well, it's the whole idea of like, what is it? You're not 100% Italian, are you? Are you like 90%?
No. Well, I don't know what the actual percent. It's a very small amount of English.
Your dad's 100% Italian,
yeah.
And then your mom's side, I think, has some mix, right?
Yeah, there's a little bit of English in there, but that's what I'm saying is once you start going up into the grandparents and everything, right? So.
Oh yeah, and here's the thing: I got genetic tested years ago because we didn't know what my father's family was at all.
Sure.
And we knew that the idea of Cuban is a fucking mix. Like there is no straight Cuban because
there's very little straight.
There was natives, and they brought slaves, and the Spanish came, and like Hispanic is a mix of kind of those three things. Because we were like, where the fuck does that come from? So what's interesting is that when we did the genetic kind of testing to figure out where that shit came from, there's Greek, there's Spanish, there's French. There's was it what is it? There's is it Ashkenazi Jewish? I can't remember what it is, but there's you know, talking about like percentage, right? Like
Yeah.
how much percentage of Judaism of being Jewish can you have before for someone to consider you to be Jewish?
Right.
Like,
That's
you know what I mean? Like, it's that, but yeah, there's a whole mix in there, you know.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay, right. So Cuban means like any number of things, right?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it is interesting, and yet, you know, we turn around and we go, well, I'm Cuban, and it's like, okay, well, that's your.
Well, I think what most people look at is
Yeah.
whatever the dominant amount is, and combined with what your family has embraced.
Yes. Oh
Because
yeah.
some people are something and want nothing to do with it for whatever reason.
Yeah,
You know,
and
they
there's
don't
people
like it.
out there who have, like, you know, 30% Irish in their family, and they consider them to be Irish. You know, like.
Right, because if you were raised in the household, followed Irish stuff or whatever. And,
Yeah, and
you know.
the Irish culture, and you're like, yeah, we're Irish, even though
Yeah.
like we're only like 40% Irish, or something like that. Whereas my wife is 100% British, and her dad's really big on not genetics, but the family trees, right?
Yeah, genealogy or whatever.
Yeah, so he's tracked all this
Family
shit back.
line.
Yeah, so he's tracked all this shit back through records, because British records go back forever, unlike Cuban records that just
Well,
don't
right,
exist.
because there's lords and duchesses. There's
Yeah.
Kentucky and all
So
that stuff, you know who owns
he
what.
found out that his family has just been in like the same part of England as farmers, going back as far as possible. Like, essentially, they were British when British happened. At one point, he thought, oh man, he thought there was Scottish in the family, and he found out that it was just that there was a town called Scotland. So that they never went to Scotland. They went to a town in England called Scotland. So there's interesting shit like that. But yeah, my wife is like 100% just British.
Yeah.
Whereas like I'm Cuban, which means like a million different things. So yeah, I'm a mutt essentially. She's purebred and I'm a mutt.
Right.
Are there any mutt dog breeds
Oh, tons.
that started out as mutts but then became a breed?
Oh there are. I'm pretty sure there are. I think there are. What do they call it? So it'd be AKC recognized mixed breeds. That's what it'd be called, mixed breed. Let's see. AKC announces new program for mixed breeds. This was back in 2009.
Yeah.
So
I saw a husky corgi the other day, and that was damn near one of the cutest things I've ever seen.
Oh yeah, there's lots of good mixes. Yeah.
Corgi. I think they call it a horgie.
Yeah.
Yeah, or a
So
custom.
yeah, no, there are mixed all kinds of things.
Did you see that the breeders, the I guess the breeding societies are talking about how they need to start fixing the dog breeds because they keep breeding certain features and what they've made monsters.
Yeah.
Like the whole
yeah.
no bulldog has been born naturally in like 50,
Right.
60
Yeah,
years.
there's
more.
unfortunately, there's lots of bad characteristics that have been kept because they are aesthetically pleasing.
Yeah, so they're talking about trying to breed.
So I think it's
'cause
pugs that have really a lot of problems breathing.
And then
it's
was the
bad.
one that was Spud? Remember that dog, Spud McKenzie?
Oh yeah. What is Spuds McKenzie? He's
He has a head like they have a head like a bullet now. But if you see what they looked like in the early 1900s, they don't look anything like that.
No.
And it's interesting how through selective breeding, what humans have done to dogs. Like it's you have to.
a bull terrier. That's what. It is.
The short-term evolution of what breeding has done is amazing with dogs.
Yeah. No, their faces used to be more defined. Now they have that very kind of,
like a bullet.
like you said, like a mortar shell shape. It's not good.
Yeah. So they just recently announced that, and I was like, I wonder to what degree they'll take that seriously if they really will.
Well,
do it.
there are still the dogs that look like the old ones, but they're not as popular. That's the problem. You know, a lot of this is on popularity, which comes back to looks, and it's terrible.
Well, it's style and fetish, right?
Yeah, it is. It is.
Yeah.
It's
Well,
not
what's
with
it,
concern for the health of the dog.
Oh man, what's the breed right now? Everywhere I see them.
I mean,
Labradoodle.
honestly,
I think I've seen Labradoodles everywhere.
Yeah, golden doodles are all over the place.
Golden doodles. That was the other
The
one.
reality is that, and it's just the way it is, that most pure breeds are not as healthy as mixed breeds because it's fighting evolution.
Oh yeah, because you want to mix the breed because then you
Yes.
get the best chance of
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so mixed
So
breeds
it's-
tend to do better, but people like pure breeds because, I mean, there's
wanna
larger. There's that, and there's also problems where people who do pure breed dogs tend to this is not every time, but it is often the case that those individuals, because they command a higher price for their animals, they also have better documentation to show that there aren't health problems and all the rest of it.
Well,
Whereas
that's
if
the
somebody's
theory,
just breeding, it's theory. It can all be doctored, it can all be made up. You don't really know.
Yeah.
But that is part of the problem. I mean, there are multiple issues with it, but yeah, the reality is that many dogs are bred for aesthetic reasons as opposed to trying to create the best life for the animal. And it's like, and certain dogs are adopted by or acquired by people that don't even fit into what their lifestyle is. It's like when people get a dog that needs to be active and they let it sit in the house all day and it's miserable.
Yeah, like one of these dogs that's for shepherding animals.
Right, and you just have it in an apartment sitting around.
Yeah, corgis are incredibly intelligent and want to, nip at your. They want to herd you.
I was going to say they're not generally good with kids. Not to say they can't be, but they are not given to be gentle. Yeah, they are instinctually driven to be herding and working animals. And so
you got to find something really lazy that just want to do shit.
Well, or you have to. The thing is, it's not that you can't do it. You can't have an animal, but people don't put the work in.
Unless you want to engage with it, yeah.
Right, you have to be able to provide the energy outlet in one way, and then train constructively and not abusively. There's lots of it's the whole thing.
But yeah, I did find it fascinating that they're going to attempt to do that, and I wonder to what degree fashion will kind of fight back and be like, but we want the pugs to look like this. Like bulldogs, man, I feel so bad because bulldogs have to be born through C-section. They have trouble breathing. They have trouble walking. Their heads are so enormous.
Yeah, it just is always saddened me to see those animals.
Bulldogs have become like a cartoon character of a dog. But it's a breed that is perfect for modern day humans because it really just wants to sit around and do nothing.
Right.
Look cute, do nothing.
If I couldn't breathe, I'd want to sit around and do nothing too.
There you go. Yeah. And pugs, man, they are loud, especially when they start to have respiratory issues.
Oh, yeah.
Loud.
Yeah.
Because I grew up when my neighbors had a pug, and that thing, I mean, their bark is god awful. I do not appreciate the sounds that pugs are capable of making. But yeah, they wheeze like a 70-year-old man who's smoked his whole life. And like that's what we've evolved them into. Actually, right. I want to see if I can find a picture real quick of what a pug looked like earlier on. Let's see, pugs pre-1900. Let's see.
If you just pull up the pug Wikipedia, you can probably see.
Oh yeah, they had more of a snout.
Yeah.
Yep. Oh yeah, look at that. They almost look like.
They look like Chihuahuas, but bigger.
Yeah, they had their face came out further. Yeah, and we breeded.
And they were and they had more of a neck.
Yeah, they did have more of a neck.
They had an actual neck. They didn't look, they didn't look like.
Oh man,
Ram Man from what do you call it, He-Man. Now they look like Ram Man.
Yeah. Oh yeah, what we're doing. Yeah. So it's interesting that someone has actually stopped and been like, "Hey, we should try and fix this."
Yeah.
So anyway, that's all I got for you.
Well,
I didn't even mean that. Bring up the dog thing. We were talking about it. Made me think about it.
Yeah, where did that come from?
I have no
ancestry
idea.
stuff. Oh, the ancestry stuff.
Oh,
it was that.
Yeah,
it was that.
Yeah.
So, this review has no clips because it's unnecessary. Because this is, you talked about the fact that entertainment. I guess that's the theme because this is a pure entertainment film. Now, I talked. I don't remember what I reviewed exactly. Probably in the last month. I reviewed Godzilla -1, which is the Japanese Godzilla film.
Oh, did you watch the new Godzilla?
I sure the fuck did.
I almost watched that movie a few times with my kids. They want to see it.
It is magnificent. So this is Godzilla X Kong, which the X thing is so stupid because the director said, "Oh, it's because it's a collaboration. That's what you use X for." So I guess it's Godzilla Collaboration Kong, the New Empire, which just came out on digital in the last week or two, I want to say. When did it come out? I know it's rentable. I don't know when exactly it came out. But anyway, I've been looking forward to this because I've said more than a few times, I really enjoy the fact that the American and Japanese Godzillas have split, And the Japanese Godzillas are focusing on the elemental horror of the character, which honestly, the Japanese, because this is born out of the nuclear World War II stuff and the trauma of that.
It's interesting, yeah.
They are better equipped to do that. They should be the ones doing it. And everybody else, we've got the Michael Bay version because that's what we're good at, which is blowing shit up. And so now this is essentially now a Warner Brothers cartoon. It is gone from Godzilla 2014 attempting some version of horror to now, nope, horror's out the window. Now it's just, let's just make these into Bugs Bunny and Daffy Duck running around. And that's exactly what this is. It is a...
He's got a power glove in this one.
Yeah. Now, this is the funny thing is, normally, a lot of CGI will grate on me. But this, it has to all be CGI because nothing's real. And in that case, I don't care. It's the appropriate fit for the effects to what the movie is. So this movie takes place, I think, 2 to 3 years after the last one, Godzilla vs. Kong. And so it's a somewhat immediate sequel. And at this point, there is an equilibrium that's been established.
So they've been quiet for a while, the two of them.
Well, because Kong is in Hollow Earth in the center of the planet, because Hollow Earth exists. I don't know if you remember that from Godzilla vs. Kong.
I do remember that, yeah.
So he's down there, and he's very lonely because he hasn't found any other big apes, which will change. And Godzilla rules the surface.
Maybe he needs a big lizard girlfriend.
Oh, he's going to... he sort of does get one. In any event, he does. It's not Godzilla, though. So Godzilla rules the top of the planet.
No.
And the best part... Yes. The best part about Godzilla ruling the top of the surface level is Godzilla now sleeps in the Coliseum. That is his bed. Like a cat. And in fact, the director had said, I based this on how my cat sleeps in its bed. So yes,
That's
Godzilla
hilarious.
resides in the Coliseum, which is fantastic. He keeps knocking pieces of it off, but that's where he sleeps. So he's there, and he is now a positive force. He gets up when a monster appears that shouldn't be around. He wrecks it and goes back to sleep. But he doesn't fuck around.
Oh, so he just spends most of this time asleep.
Yeah, he's like a cat. So he just spends most of the time asleep unless, a ball of yarn shows up.
What does he eat?
It's never made clear. I guess it doesn't matter. He's a nuclear generator, so it doesn't matter.
Me,
I guess he's a fission reactor or something.
I guess he eats the sun. Okay, or she eats the sun, yeah.
Something. So everything's fine for a while, but Kong's very lonely. And, because he's down there and he's looking around and, he's just kind of sad because he can't find anybody. He thought maybe he'd find his own people. There's a large part of this movie, which is actually legitimately impressive, that is nonverbal. Much of it is just you reading Kong's expressions. My only real problem with these movies, the last two, is they're very Kong-centric. And I would like more of a Godzilla film again, because I just don't like King Kong all that much. I just find the character very boring. It's just a big gorilla, and there's nothing much about that to me. However, it does make sense. He is the easiest for human beings to read expressions and mannerisms off because he's very humanoid and his face is very expressive.
Yeah, he's a big gorilla. Yeah.
Yes, so it makes sense. So he's down there looking sad, and he's got a toothache, and so they pull him up to the surface because his tooth is infected, and they drug him, and that's when we get introduced to, by far, one of the best characters that's been in fact, he is probably the best character in any of the American Godzilla films so far, which is Dan Stevens' Trapper character, who is he's basically, do you remember Dennis Hopper in Apocalypse Now? That character? Okay, Take that character, make him optimistic and happy and goofy, and make Dan Stevens talk in his normal voice as him. And that's what Trapper is. Trapper shows up. He's always playing like 70s rock music. He's got a Hawaiian shirt on. He's like, hey, let's do some dental surgery on a giant ape, motherfucker, yeah! And he's like flying like spaceships.
So they got rid of the doctor from the other one, huh?
Yeah, he's gone. Too boring. Out.
Okay.
Gone. Jettisoned. The female scientist, Rebecca Hall, she's still in it. But they've gotten rid of the boring other side of it. So now they've got Trapper. Trapper's great. He's a delight. And Dan Stevens is fantastic. Got long hair. He's got, he looks like he fell out of a 60s.
Oh, yeah. Hawaiian shirt. Yeah.
He's great. They should just make movies with him. And it would be very, very fun to see him just bopping around doing, little veterinary on Titan stuff. So he shows up and gives Kong a basically super alloy tooth, fixes him up. They put him back down to Hollow Earth. And the little girl from the last movie says she kind of senses that Kong, because she and Kong have some kind of psychic connection or something. I mean, they can sign to each other. And her people are from Hollow Earth. You find this out in the movie. It's very, very obvious. Nothing in this movie is going to surprise anybody. But anyway, so she sees Kong. She's kind of sad because she sees he's sad. And she doesn't feel like she fits in with the world because there's nobody from her people left alive. And Kong's in a similar thing, so she's identifying with him. And so they send him back down. And then this signal starts acting up. And it wakes Godzilla up. Like Godzilla senses something is going on. And he starts superpowering himself. He starts going around and killing off Titans and absorbing their power. So at one point, as far as I could tell, he actually goes from just being nuclear powered to being nuclear and some kind of magic sea crystal powered. That's why he changes colors. So blue is nuclear and the pink
purple
color or whatever. Yeah, whatever
purple,
that is.
pinky, yeah.
That's the combination of nuclear and he kills a huge sea serpent and absorbs all of its crystal power. And then he turns pink or whatever, purple or mauve, whatever the color is. And so that's why he's now a different color. Now he's he's twice as powerful as he used to be. But I do like the fact that they do have a point where, because this is something they don't really do enough of, or at least they never really play with this idea.
Oh, I just found the picture of him in the Coliseum.
No, it's great, right? He's just curled up. It's fantastic.
Hilarious. Yeah.
It's great. So there's a point where some jets are coming to try to strafe him, and they can't get too close to him because they're like, he's putting out too much radiation. We can't get close enough. And I'm like, that's really neat. He would be pouring out radiation, so you couldn't just fly up to him. So I like that because that doesn't usually come up. But in this movie, they do actually say that at one point. They're like, well, we can't get too close to him, so we can try to fire missiles, but we can't really get close to see what's going on because he's too radioactive. We have to stay away. So anyway, so Godzilla's stomping around on the surface, and he is absorbing all this power. Meanwhile, down in Hollow Earth, Kong is kind of jumping around for a while, and he finds this big sinkhole and goes down into it, and he finds this area that he's never seen before, and this little
So he's
monkey,
deeper. He's even deeper into the earth.
Yeah. So I don't even know how far into the earth it is. Whatever. He's somewhere, and he finds this little small ape, which he's like, "Whoa, what are you?" And the small ape immediately attacks him, and is like, and then a bunch of other ones show up, and they're trying to murder him, and he figures out that there is a race of savagely murderous apes that are led by a bigger, super, mean ape that's called the Scar King. So immediately I thought Scar from Lion King. So it's basically like that kind of situation. Like he's lanky and big and mean looking. And so in the meantime, some of the humans come down as well because they're hearing the signal. And the little girl's having dreams of something. So they come down to find Kong. And Kong finds these other apes, and the Scar guy comes out, and he's got this whip, this bone whip that he wears, and at the end of it, he's got this crystal on it, and you don't know what it is, and he points it, and then you realize that he has essentially an ice Godzilla creature under his control. He's controlling it with the crystal. The crystal allows him to... It's like a shock collar. I don't really understand how it works.
They're getting very into like the weird monster shit. Huh?
Oh, it's crazy. That's what I'm saying. It's delightful. So he controls this super ice lizard. I don't remember what the name of the creature was, but another Titan that does ice. It's Godzilla but ice. It really what it is. I mean, she even looks like Godzilla, very, very similar, except she never stands up really, except for a couple of times. She's not like Godzilla who runs for a lot of this movie, which is great. And she fires this ice beam, which gives him massive frostbite in his arm and damages his nerves. And so he kind of manages to just barely get away without getting killed. He's almost killed. And he collapses, and the humans find him, at which point Dan Stevens is like, hey, I know what'll help that guy's arm. Stay here. I'm going to groove out, Daddy-O. And he takes off for a minute, blasting fucking 70s rock. Comes back blasting 70s rock with a giant power glove, which they show the schematic for it, and I looked at it, and I thought it looked familiar, so I looked it up, and it's actually one of the Jaeger arms from Pacific Rim. That's what they were basing this off as, which implies that the Jaegers existed.
Oh.
Because it's...
Yeah. I mean, that's funny.
Who knows?
That's very funny. Okay.
Yeah. So they have the glove, but the government stopped them because they said, well, wait. Because essentially what it implies is that they were going to build a Jaeger, more or less, and they were like, no, we don't want you to make a bigger, more super-powered version of these things. We have to be able to control them, not create mecha versions of them.
So this is where we're going, right? There's got to be some
I mean,
kind of like suited. Yeah. All right,
wouldn't you watch that?
No, I would. I mean, I think it'd be great.
I would watch it. So anyway, he brings back the glove because they finished the prototype of the glove. And it attaches itself to Kong and gives him, now he has a cybernetic hand. So they basically fixed his arm. So they then find this, they're there, and suddenly all these native people come out. And I don't know how this was supposed to be a mystery, because I'm not sure what the little girl who plays the girl from Skull Island, I'm not sure what her genetic, whatever her actual ethnicity is, but these people look exactly like her. So immediately, anybody with even one brain cell is like, oh, these are her people. But they play it like a mystery for a while, which I will say, the weakest part of all the American Godzilla films up to this point is the way they use humans. The humans have generally been either completely disposable or annoying. This is the least bad of all of them so far. They managed to dial back the human stuff enough. And when they are present, they don't annoy me as much, especially because Dan Stevens sort of offsets all of it. He's so interesting and unique and bonkers that you want more of him. And so he pushes back the kind of stoic, we're a scientist bullshit that they did in a lot of the other ones, which was just boring after a while. He's just such a breath of fresh air. And the podcast guy, who was annoying in the last movie, is somehow not as annoying in this one. I think because they partner him with Dan Stevens. And when he's freaking out, Dan Stevens is like, come here, I'll give you a hug. Let's hug. And he hugs him. And he's like, oh, yeah, man, I know. We're watching plants eat people, but that's the law of the jungle, baby. It's just the way it is. Here, let me give you another hug. And it's just so endearing and weird that it's great. It just melts any of your annoyance at the human being stuff. So they're there. All these native people show up.
Oh, and I guess 11 is gone too, huh?
I think the director had said that he didn't see a place for her in this movie. She's not gone. She's more of a
Godzilla character, though, isn't she?
Yes, I would think that because she was more attached to Godzilla. Which again, I would like to see a Godzilla film again, where it's just him against something. So the people show up, and they immediately recognize her as a what do you call it? A embodiment of a prophecy they have about a little girl who can bring Mothra back. And I'm like, oh shit, Mothra's coming back. And which, and that is exactly what happens. Is she somehow they did show that I think they did show in the other movie that Mothra's had caterpillars or whatever. So she brings Mothra back. So I kept expecting there to be a twin of her, because that was the Mothra thing in the older movies. There were always the twins that talked to Mothra, but instead it's just her. So I thought she would have a long lost twin with these people, I was positive that was going to happen, but they didn't do it. So I don't know if that'll happen later or something or whatever. But she is now the conduit to Mothra. So she brings Mothra back, because what they say is, okay.
So she's got Mothra and King Kong.
Yeah. So she's like she's the monster whisperer. And so Mothra comes back because what they say is in the prophecy, it describes the fact that the Scar King at some point, if I remember, the Scar King and Godzilla fought, and Godzilla kicked his ass, so he's been trying to figure out a way to kill Godzilla, which is why he's got the Ice Godzilla thing, because he figures that one can stop Godzilla along with him. But he didn't realize that King Kong was around. And so he controls all the other big apes by terrorizing them. So Kong doesn't like him. And so they're like, okay, we have to get Godzilla to come down here because Kong can't stop him. But we know that Godzilla can kick Kong's ass, which is true. And so if we bring him down here, if we can get him and Kong to work together, then they can take this guy out. And the reason they need Mothra is because Godzilla has this, I don't know, romantic thing for Mothra or whatever. That's what they always kind of inferred, that he was kind of in love with her. They're like, Mothra will stop Godzilla from killing Kong. She can mediate whatever's going on with them because they are inherently driven to battle each other. They cannot be in the same place at the same time. They just hate each other instinctually or whatever, race memory or whatever it is. So like, but we got Mothra back. So if we can get him down here, and if Mothra can stop him from being a murderous, super Godzilla, then, we can focus him at the Scar King and we can wipe these people out. So they're like, all right, well, then we got to send Kong up, because as soon as Godzilla realizes Kong is on the surface, then we can draw him in, we can bring him into the portal to Hollow Earth, and we can bring them both down here. Okay? So that's the plan. So they send Kong up. Kong bursts out of the ground in Egypt near the pyramids, but conveniently isn't near them. So I went, oh, yeah, okay, they're doing the thing where they don't want to wreck the pyramids, so the portal is just far enough away that you have this cool shot of Kong standing near the pyramids, but they're not going to wreck the pyramids, right? Yeah, because you don't want to destroy everything. At which point, Godzilla starts running at him and shreds all the pyramids and destroys everything. So Godzilla's immediately like, fuck you, and like runs at him, and I am not kidding. He fucking suplexes him. He picks him up and does a power bomb with him. At which point I thought I was going to fucking blow the back of my head out, because I'm like, this is exactly what I want. This is what I want these movies to be. Just fucking cartoon nonsense. And Godzilla is just, because you see him when he starts running at Kong, and Kong's like holding his hands up, like, no, I'm not here to fight. And Kong's like, fuck it. Godzilla just runs him over.
No, we're buddies. We're buddies.
No,
we're buddies. It's
no,
cool.
we're not.
Bitch be cool.
No,
Bitch be cool.
No, and he's firing his heat breath and shit. Like, it's all the best stuff. The astonishing part is Godzilla's barely in this movie. But when he shows up, he's so good, you don't really care. I mean, I think they said this is the least he's been in these movies so far, which is astonishing because it didn't feel like that to me, where I really want more of him, and yet I didn't really mind, because when they use him, they are using him. He is at full power the whole time. Like, there's nothing subtle about him. So, yeah, he's whomping him and all this shit, at which point Mothra shows up and just kind of, like, entrances him, where he's like, oh, Mothra, hey, where were you? And so they stop fighting, at which point the Scar King rides into the portal area down in Hollow Earth, and then they go up to the surface and they burst out of the ground. So now you've got Godzilla, Kong, Mothra, the Ice Godzilla, and the Super Ape, and they're just fucking wiping shit out of it. They're like destroying Egypt. Egypt's blowing up. They're freezing the ocean. They're freezing people, even though they really don't show anybody actually dying. So then they go to Rio. They're in Rio de Janeiro at one point.
They never show you the body count, but it's thousands.
Right. So then the Scar King starts to make the Ice One induce another ice age by shooting the sky with ice, which I don't know how that happens, but who the hell cares? And so they're fucking each other up. Everybody's fighting each other. It's a pretty even match. And there's a point where Kong realizes that he has to destroy the crystal that the Scar King is using to control the Ice Godzilla, because he figures if he frees her, she'll turn on him. But he can't get to it. He can't get to it. He's trying. At which point, out of the portal pops the mini ape holding Kong's axe with one of Godzilla's scales in it, because even his weapon depends on Godzilla being more powerful than him. Which I do love the fact that there's constant reference to the fact that Kong is shit compared to Godzilla, because everybody should understand that that's how it is. Kong is nothing. Godzilla is everything.
Godzilla is the king.
He is.
And the only reason that King Kong survived the last one is because of Mechagodzilla and the fact that he had the axe. But even with the axe, he was getting his ass kicked.
He would eventually lose. So the little ape throws it to Kong. Kong smashes the crystal, at which point the Ice Godzilla turns on Scar, freezes him solid. Kong grabs him and smashes him into a bunch of bloody pieces. And then Godzilla basically shoots his breath into the sky, which melts the ice age that was starting, whatever, and kind of looks at Kong and is like, yeah, all right. Because Mothra's still around, so he's like, all right. She says you're all right. I'll let it go this time. He's like, I'm going back to my fucking bed in Italy. So he leaves and goes back to his bed and goes to sleep.
But you better fuck off before I get back here.
Right. So then Mothra goes back into Hollow Earth, and Kong goes back in, but now he and the Ice Godzilla are pals, so she's like his horse now, but they're friendly because he freed her. So he goes back and he basically...
he has a girlfriend.
He does. So, and he liberates all the Hollow Earth apes, and he takes over as their new benevolent leader.
What is that creature called?
I don't... hold on. Let me see.
Is it Ice Godzilla?
Ice Power. Shimo. Shimo. Shimo is the name of it.
Shimo.
IMO. Yeah, yeah. So put Titan
Hold on.
Shimo and you'll find it.
No, hold
So,
on. I'm just very curious if
Titan
something
Shimo.
has already happened.
Of course it has. I mean, come on, you already know it has. Yeah.
Oh, King Kong has got a girlfriend.
He does.
Sorry, go on.
So anyway, so that's kind of where it then leaves. Is Godzilla is back to being ruler of the surface, and then Mothra is back down, and I don't really know what Mothra does on her off time, but she's just down there. Actually, that's my one other issue with these movies is I don't really love their version of Mothra. They made her very insect-like instead of staying closer to the kind of. I know I wouldn't make her exactly like the old Godzilla ones were, but she's friendlier looking. She looks more of the kind of positive creature she is in the older Godzilla stuff. In this one, she just kind of looks like a weird wasp thing, even though she's supposed to be a moth or whatever. So I don't really love her design. I don't hate it, but I don't like it as much as the classic kind of Godzilla design. Shimu is fine. They basically put Godzilla on all fours and softened the features, but it looks like a crawling version of Godzilla.
It does.
And so
yeah.
Kong and everybody else are in Hollow Earth, kind of running things down there, and Godzilla rules the planet, which makes a lot of sense. And that's where the movie ends. It just ends there. It's like, okay, everything's back to the way it should be, and movie's over. And it's a fucking riot. It's just a blast. It's completely mindless. The narrative is not doing anything you won't be able to predict 15 steps out. You know exactly how everything's going to work. There are no surprises. But if you just want to see giant monsters thrashing each other, then the movie's got you covered. And I do actually admire the fact that they spent long portions of this movie not having dialogue, that they just rely on you visually figuring out what is being communicated to you without having to have. There's very few scenes. There still are them, but there are not as many as in the other movies where, okay, you see something happening and a human has to say to another human, hey, guess what's happening over there? Let me tell you what's happening over there. There's a lot less of that. There still is that stuff, but it's not as bad as it was in the other ones where it was really just over the top type of crap, you know?
Yeah.
So I enjoyed the hell out of it. I like the American stuff. So
I think that this run of movies are, like you said, it's a cartoon. It's a kids movie. They are adult kids movies, but the kids and the adults both like them.
Yeah, I said, I just like the fact that if you like the horror Godzilla, the kind of original
and I'll tell you
allegory,
what,
you have that.
Based on your review, I will probably show my kids that.
Oh, your kids are going to fucking love this movie.
No, it's fantastic.
They're going to love this movie. It's everything a kid.
And when I tell my son that that's a Jaeger arm, essentially,
you look for it. It's not even. You'll see it. There's a very very big image of it with the schematic. And I don't remember which one they said it was. I think they even know which one it is. Hold on, Godzilla.
Oh my God, that's hilarious.
I think they even identified. I think in the thing they said, not in the movie, but somebody figured out which one it is.
It's not Gypsy Danger.
The Gypsy Danger? I don't know which one that one is.
Oh, Gypsy Danger is the main one. Yeah, okay.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he loves Gypsy Danger.
All right. Well, that's you will
funny.
see that arm. It's from the side, but it's there.
Based on your review, I will totally go watch it next weekend with my kids.
Yeah. I'm sure there's probably an image of the actual blueprint.
We almost watched it a few times.
Yeah. Oh, it's great. It's great.
Yeah, because like this weekend it got it's been on my list now for a while, but it keeps getting like just bumped at the last minute.
Yeah.
So this weekend it was bumped by Venom because they'd been desperate to watch that, and I finally let them.
Yeah.
So.
No, it's a lot of fun.
Next weekend we'll watch that.
It's a lot of fun. Like I said, it's very mindless. They're gonna probably love the Dan Stevens character because he is delightful.
No, they're gonna love Godzilla.
Well, actually,
and King Kong. That's what they love.
they'll like them, but I think they're gonna like the podcast guy because
They don't give a shit about the humans, man.
No, but
I
think
are there for Godzilla.
What I'm saying though is they are the comic relief, and they are very good together. So unlike the other humans who they will forget about instantly.
Well, because the first Godzilla movie is traumatic. Like the first American one, the reboot they did with what's his name?
Oh, with Bryan Cranston and
with Bryan Cranston. That movie is intense.
Channing Tatum, is that guy's name?
No, it wasn't Channing. That was the guy who played Quicksilver.
Yeah, sure, whatever his name is.
What's his name? Is it Aaron Paul? Is it Aaron Paul?
Sure. Paul. I don't know.
Either way, yeah. So, but that movie is that's like an intense. That's a serious movie. You know what I mean? Like it's not. They don't play that one for WWF.
No,
laughs.
no. This one they are. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
This. I think I described it in my short review as pure spectacle, and that's
even was it King of Monsters is more serious. But the second they got Godzilla and King Kong together, it became kind of a weird Tango and Cash buddy movie.
Yeah, and there is a moment where he has the power glove and he basically pulls a Big O where he like fucking fires the things and like punches Godzilla in the face and knocks Godzilla on the ground, and you see Godzilla almost do. It's almost the kind of, you know, in the cartoons where somebody gets hit really hard and their eyes roll for a minute. It's almost like that. It's as close to that as you could get, where Godzilla's like blinking and he's like, "What the fuck just hit me?" And it's like this. Awesome. It's the only time I think I've seen Godzilla look outside the old movies.
Well, because Godzilla's probably sitting there going, "What the fuck is this shit?"
But
now?
It's the closest he's come to any emotion that wasn't just anger and power.
So the next movie is going to be a Jaeger, Godzilla, and King Kong versus aliens.
Well, the interesting part about the sequel to this is they said that the guy who did the last two is not doing the next one. The next one is going to be done.
He knows what he's doing.
Yeah. I'm trying to... Okay.
That's not good.
Well, the interesting part is the guy they're getting to do it. I believe this Grant Sputor is the guy's name. And the last movie he did was I think a fairly well-received horror movie called I Am Mother with Natalie Portman, I think. Or who's in this? Hold on a minute. Who's in I Am Mother? Oh, no, that's the robot movie. It's the sci-fi movie. Remember I Am Mother?
Oh, yeah. That was
not,
an interesting
not Natalie
flick.
Portman, the Hilary Swank who looks just like her.
Yeah. No.
To me, yes, she does.
What's wrong with you?
To me,
Hilary Swank does not look like Natalie Portman. Oh, my God.
She does to me.
Dude, get your eyes checked.
Oh, you know why? Because the woman that I think looks like Natalie Portman isn't Hilary Swank on the poster. It's Rose Byrne. Sorry, I'm mixing them up. Rose Byrne on the I Am Mother poster looks like Natalie Portman.
Okay, that makes more sense.
That's why I mixed the two of them up. You're right.
So he's not.
Hilary Swank looks very different. Sorry.
So he's not doing the next one, Adam Wingard.
No, the I Am Mother guy is doing it, which is interesting. But I also don't know. Hold on. I don't know. That's weird too, because
the Adam Wingard guy, if you look at his stuff too, like he's got a very horror movie background. So it's kind of funny that he's made them as battle royale like fun as he has. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm trying to.
Like I would not have guessed from this guy's CV that he would make these Godzilla King Kong movies.
Yeah. What I don't know though, and this may be. The thing is, they haven't specifically said that the next movie is going to be a crossover. It could just be a pure Godzilla film, in which case it would make more sense for somebody like this if they're going to go more with the, like coming up with another, because they've said Ghidorah is still around. And there are other creatures, so they could bring Biollante in. They could bring Desatoroya in. They could do all kinds of stuff and make it more about the horror of his enemy. You know what I mean? So, we don't really know what the next movie will be. It may be a crossover. Oh man, they're talking about a new Son of Kong movie. That would be. That's funny because that's one of the things I was actually going to say. People criticize the goofiness of these, and I'm like, have you seen the older Godzilla movies? What the fuck are you talking about? He drop kicked people from across the fucking planet. Don't tell me that this shit got goofy now. Godzilla classically has been goofy.
Listen to this. This is a weird bit of information.
Sure.
With a net budget of $135 million, this is the cheapest MonsterVerse film to date. Did it look cheap to you?
No, it didn't look cheap, but at the same time, most of it is all CG, so CG gets cheaper over time.
That's what I mean. Because if it didn't look like it's kind of a good thing that they can make these for less money. Because this goes back to that whole widespread thing. How many people want to watch Godzilla, King Kong, battle royale movies? Like the fact that they were able to make it for less, that's a good thing.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't think it looked bad or anything like that. It didn't look real, but again, at this point,
it's not supposed to be real. It's a cartoon.
Yeah. Well, that's why it would be the cheapest one. I don't know why it would be cheaper than the last one. Unless some of the people that they didn't bring back were more expensive.
Well, or they didn't get any named people for this. Eleven's not in this.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying is maybe they saved on the actors.
Skarsgård's not in this.
But Dan Stevens is not nobody.
No, he's not. But Dan Stevens is not. I think a Skarsgård level at this point. Skarsgård
and
like,
what's her face was probably more expensive because of Stranger Things. Sure, it makes sense.
Yeah.
You know?
And Dan Stevens is a good actor, but he's still in that kind of TV A24 level actor. Do you know what I mean?
I'm
like
curious.
I don't think he's commanding a blockbuster movie necessarily.
Well, what did Godzilla vs. Kong cost as a comparison point? What was the budget on that?
Hold on.
That one was 155 to 200 million.
Yes, that's way more.
Yeah, also Lance Reddick was in it too. Yeah, so see, there's expensive people in this. Kyle Chandler. Yeah, there were more. Yeah,
they've backed off the actors a little bit.
Well, okay. Now here's the interesting part, though, is they don't know the specific numbers. So, Godzilla vs. Kong was 155 to 200. Okay.
Yeah.
This one was 135 to 150. Now, that high number is awfully close to the low number for the other one. So these may be closer than people. So that's like saying I made, I drew something for you for $500 last year and I drew it for $475 this year. Well, yeah, technically it's cheaper, but.
Well, yeah, but I mean, that's $25 million. I mean, that's still a lot of money.
I'm not saying it isn't, but that makes sense that if they just cut some of the higher priced actors, there's your savings.
Yeah.
That's why it doesn't look any different because the CG's the same.
Well, they listen. The director put the money in the right place.
Right, and
because here's the thing: there are great actors out there who are not named actors.
Not to mention, at this point, I'm sure they have basically the wireframes and everything for these. They know the monsters now. They don't have to whip up new CGs of these. They could just change some colors and make them do the same things. So again, the economy kind of repetition of something will make it cheaper. So it makes sense. But the bottom line is, it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. It's exactly it feels like it could have taken place 10 minutes after the last one as far as it's the same kind of feel to it. And I do appreciate that maybe because they dumped some of the higher priced people, there's less people in it. So it's more about, especially if you like the Kong character, you're going to love it even more than I did because these are clearly Kong movies, even though Godzilla's name comes first, as it should. But they're definitely more Kong films than they are Godzilla films. And I know somebody's going to say, well, it's because, you can't really relate to Godzilla. Fuck you. I don't care. I don't want to relate to Godzilla. I want to watch him thrash shit. So I really do want another movie that's sort of King of the Monsters with less of the human bullshit. Give me Godzilla fighting big-time monsters. Because the reality is, in this movie, if not for the fact that they made up an ice version of him, there would be no threat. Those apes, I mean, he almost kills the Scar King himself a couple of times. The only reason he can't is because he gets tied up with the ice lizard. But outside of that, he was about to atomic breath the Scar King into some burned pieces of fur.
Well, listen, at the end of the day, King Kong is the king of monsters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
That's what it comes down to. And that's why you can't write him. That's the reason they don't have him as the lead. This is the Superman problem, right? Which is that when you have a character who's that powerful, it takes deft writing to figure out a skillful way to use that character. In this case, they created a counterpart that had a alternate power.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But Godzilla is so powerful. Yeah. It'd be interesting if they did a movie about a depowered Godzilla where he loses his atomic breath and he has to go through a midlife crisis. Where he wanders the world just, living off of his muscles alone. Until he gets it back at the end.
There's a couple of it's not as if Godzilla can't be countered. He can. There's different ways to do it. The obvious ways to do it.
He gets his ass kicked pretty good in King of Monsters at times.
Yeah, well, that's the thing is if they bring I can't never remember if it's supposed to be Ghidorah or Ghidra. I don't really care. I'll say Ghidorah. Ghidorah is a good threat for him because Ghidorah is an alien. So, and that also leads to Space Godzilla could also take him on because Space Godzilla is him but space powered. So Space Godzilla's got giant crystals that power it. So they're a pretty even match.
I forgot what Space Godzilla looked like.
I love Space Godzilla. He's great.
It's so silly.
He's very silly. That's why I like him so much. I have a little figure of him. He's great.
Giant crystal shoulders.
He literally is just Godzilla with a couple of things bolted on. That's all with crystals.
He's just got crystal like football shoulders.
Yeah. But the ones that I think would work best if they were going to go with any of the classic roster is I would either bring in Biollante or I would bring in, or actually no, you could do Hedorah. No, you could do Hedorah too. Especially if you want to be topical.
Which one's Biollante?
Biollante is the big plant. He's cool looking. If you look up Biollante, that's Biollante. He's a big lizard plant thing. Yeah, he's neat looking.
He's all kinds of freaky.
He looks like the Thing, kind of. He looks like the Thing.
Yeah, except some versions have a big flower at the top.
Well, yeah, because he's a plant. But the one that would be topical would be Hedorah, which is also known as the smog monster. So you could do the environmental thing, whereas the smog monster can actually like poison them. So he could, depending on how you do it, or you do Desatoroya, who can replicate himself, and he looks like the devil. Desatoroya looks like the devil. I mean, he looks like a devil monster. D-E... Oh, God. Okay, so it would be...
Oh, no, I found it.
Okay. Yeah, look at him. He's fucking great. His final form is really good. He looks like a big devil lizard. I mean, he's great. But he starts off as multiple crab creatures, so you could actually have more than one of him. He doesn't start off looking that way. He starts off... Yeah. And that's the one, I believe...
He looks like trouble.
Yeah, he does. He is. I think that's the one where Godzilla dies. One of the ones where he dies. Where he becomes so powerful he's melting down, and after he kills Desatoroya, he melts down. He becomes nothing. And then his son comes out of it. So if they want to do Son of Godzilla, maybe they will kill him off and bring the son in. They could do it. It just depends.
Godzuki!
Yeah, that's, again, when people are like, oh, these new American movies are too silly. Really? Sillier than a little Godzilla that blows smoke rings? Go fuck yourself. No, it isn't. Come on. It's sillier. Give me a fucking break.
Hey, listen, this is the key important question here. Were you entertained?
Oh my God, it was a blast.
There you go. There you go.
I loved it. This is what I'm saying.
Fantastic, then.
I want these movies to get goofier. I want Space Godzilla. I want the big cartoony shit. That's what was fun. I mean, the Japanese are doing the serious, hardcore stuff, which I like too. But I want the other side. There has to be a release side, and that can be the dumb American Michael Bay stuff. The one time Michael Bay's influence is welcome. Put it in Godzilla. Blow everything up. Make it dumb. Have Nicolas Cage holding flares as Godzilla flies over him. Whatever.
If they attempt another Mechagodzilla, I want it to look like Mechagodzilla.
They won't. They're not going to go back to that for a while.
I know.
And honestly, they don't need to. There's plenty of villains.
Oh, there's tons of shit. Yeah.
Yeah. I just hope that they don't make the design stupid. Keep them kind of goofy looking.
But honestly, if they bring Jaegers into this, I'm totally happy with that. I just don't think Godzilla would be happy with that.
That's where I would actually say, instead of doing Mechagodzilla, bring the Jaegers in. Make mech suits. Make G-Force. G-Force exists in the Japanese ones. Make G-Force and make them in suits. It's fine. I wouldn't have any problem with that. But like I said, there's plenty...
I never saw G-Force. What is G-Force?
Oh, they are the anti-Godzilla task force. If you look up Godzilla G-Force, they're the...
Did they have... They have a great patch. Oh man!
No, it's great. Yeah, they're a.
Did they have mechs?
No, they always had spaceships. I don't remember them ever having mechs. They
have lots of little weird ships. Okay, interesting.
Yeah, I was gonna say I looked it up. They
didn't form up into a robot.
No, but they did pilot Mechagodzilla 2, the second one, what they called Super Mechagodzilla. So, but no, most of their stuff is. Oh, yeah, you know what? They did have a mech. They had Mogera, which is really stupid looking. I forgot about Mogera because I don't like it very much. But most of the time, yeah, there's Godzilla has a different name. He's called Kiryu for some reason. Cybersaur? Oh, well, that's in the comics. That doesn't count. And then, but most of what I remember them having is super spaceships, like super ships. In fact, if you look at their vehicle list,
Mogura looks terrible.
Yeah, they could update that, and they could just make it a Jaeger. So they could do that. But their ships are cooler looking. Their actual vehicles are neat looking, and they, in many cases, have better names. The Star Falcon, Garuda.
How would you feel about Benicio del Toro?
Guillermo del Toro?
Guillermo del Toro doing a Godzilla.
Of course, I'd have no problem with that whatsoever.
Okay.
I mean, that really. Where is Pacific Rim X Godzilla?
It's
do it
exactly in there. Yeah.
Yeah. So look. I'll watch Del Toro anything. So yeah, I think if honestly, I mean this very sincerely, even if he doesn't direct, I would have him redesign the enemies. I would hire him as
his monsters were good. Yeah.
Yes, he would not have made that Godzilla or Mechagodzilla. I mean, he would not have done that. So I would absolutely say, fine, if he won't direct or you don't want to pay him to direct, pay him to do the designs. Just pay him to do the creature designs for your enemies. You'll be fine. You know? I mean, if you look at some of the Godzilla villains, there's so many weird things in there. So many of them. That, I mean, the kaiju stuff that existed for these characters is just unbelievable. There's so many. You know? They already did Rodan. They did Rodan very well. I actually did like their Ghidorah update. Or Ghidra, whatever. I liked it in King of the Monsters. I thought that was great. I love the fact that the heads kind of were all independent. I thought that was really wonderful. So it's not like they can't do good redesigns. Mechagodzilla was just a disgrace, though.
It was terrible.
I mean, that was so bad that it's really astonishing that nobody figured out that was very bad. But,
you know what? But here's the thing. My kids didn't care.
Yeah,
I think that's that other part is that I think you got a lot of people that he's just a big mechanoid villain. They don't care. You don't realize something is bad until you see something that's really good.
Well, what I was about to say though is if you were to show your kids what Mechagodzilla looks like in the older ones, I bet they wouldn't be as impressed anymore. If you were to say, here's what the Japanese one looks like.
My son wanted it to look like a Jaeger, but that's his Pacific Rim is his.
But that's Mechagodzilla, the old one. If you showed him the old Mechagodzilla suit, that's what I want to look like.
He's closer to that, but yeah.
Yeah. Well, because he effectively is just Godzilla but metal.
No, the fact that there's a Jaeger arm, I mean, that just says everything for me. So
they could bring in Mecha Ghidra. They did it before. That's how they resurrected him in the older movies.
They just
Mecha. Look up Mecha King Ghidorah.
Hold up.
Look that thing up. He's amazing looking. He's fucking fantastic. Mecha King Ghidorah. Yeah, look at that motherfucker. Tell me your kids wouldn't go bonkers if they made an updated.
God,
he's got the metal archangel wings. He's got a central metal head with the body. Yeah, he's great.
Central metal body. Yeah.
Yeah, that's how they brought him back after Godzilla killed him the first time. They fucking meched him. It's great. And Godzilla fucks him up again. It's wonderful. Oh, look, and he's on the list of 10 villains that should appear in the Monsterverse. Let's see what they put. Anguirus. Yeah, I know. Everybody loves Anguirus. I'm not the biggest fan. That's okay. Megagyrus. Yes. That's basically evil Mothra.
Which one's... Oh, okay. Got it.
Here. I'll say
that makes sense. No, that makes sense.
And then they've got... Let's see. Who comes after Megagyrus? Megagyrus. Orga. I don't even remember Orga. Orga just looks like a generic alien. Hedorah. There you go. Hedorah, the smog monster.
Oh, Orga looks good. Honestly, Orga designed by Del Toro would be amazing.
Sure. Oh, there you go. Hedorah, Mecha King Ghidra, Space Godzilla, Biollante, Desitoroya, and Gigan. Or Gigan. I don't know how you're supposed to pronounce that. Gigan's kind of... I guess. Gigan's kind of a... I mean, he's got blades for arms. He looks like a Rob Zombie Godzilla villain to me. And then, of course, number
Space
one
is... Godzilla's got, like, crystal football shoulders.
I know, but he's still cooler looking because he's basically just Godzilla, but, crystallized. And he's got red eyes.
So wait, so is what's her name? Omi or the Ice Godzilla, is that a...
Shimu. I think it's an invention.
Is Shimu an actual Monsterverse character, or is this a new
I think
character?
so. Yeah, I'm pretty sure they invented that for the new movies. I think she's a new Monsterverse character, or whatever you want to call it. Yeah. But yeah, if you look at the bottom of that list I sent you, look at Mechagodzilla. That's a Jaeger. It's just in 70s.
Oh yeah,
Jaeger.
I know.
So yeah, if you showed your son this and said, well, would you like to see this instead of the one they had in the movie? He'd probably say, yeah, it looks like a person.
Yeah, I mean, I hope that somebody figures out how to do a crossover.
Me too.
And I think they can, because Pacific Rim, it was all about portals anyway, right?
That's what I'm saying. It's such an easy thing to do.
Just get the studios to go for it. So.
Well, anyway, on that note, I think we've covered everything, and all of our stuff was recommendations. So, no bad things this time. That's good. Yeah, no, everything was positive. That's good. That's good. We don't do that very often. So yeah, that's great. So before we somehow doom it, go watch either, what was that long title? The Untold Deeds of the Hirsute Gentleman. What is it?
The ungentlemanly behavior. Yes.
That's it. Yeah, I've linked it. It's linked in the show notes. It's linked.
Okay.
Go watch that long titled thing by Guy Ritchie, or go watch Godzilla Collaboration Kong, because that's really fun.
It's a different mood. I'll tell you that.
It's very different. Yeah, I mean, it's not necessarily a
but
double
both,
feature.
but both are just entertaining films.
Yes, pure
They
entertainment.
Don't expect you to do much. Yeah.
Let me tell you something. If you don't want to think for a little under 2 hours, Godzilla, and that is your that is it.
That one's got me beat. Yeah.
That is pure. Just you can occasionally get up and go to the bathroom, and you won't miss anything. Just don't miss any parts where Godzilla's on screen, because that's all the battling stuff. So if you see people are talking, you can go to the bathroom. You'll be all right. You can come back. You'll figure the rest out. But if you suddenly see Godzilla show up, stick around for the next couple minutes, and then when he leaves again, you'll be fine. And that's it. So, and yes, if anybody, if there's a monster that I didn't list or whatever that you think would fit, I'd be very curious, because there are a lot of Godzilla, and there's a lot of non-Godzilla giant monsters too that could work. So it's not like you can't bring externals in. So by all means, be sure to let us know. But on that note, whatever you do, have an entertaining weekend, and we will talk to you again next week. Visit OzoneNightmare.com to subscribe to new episodes, browse through our back catalog, or to find links to support the show. Follow @OzoneNightmare on Twitter for the latest episode postings and other show information. If 280 characters just isn't enough, you can always email us, theozonenightmare@gmail.com. The opening theme for the show is provided by Heartbeat Hero. The closing theme is provided by Ogre. Please visit and support these artists using the links in the show notes for each episode.